Here in the rear of the machine is the hydraulic pump, which releases the tool holders and the rotary table. So you can see there are 3 solenoids there. The 5Y one does the tool holders and the 14V one does the rotary table. It's a 3-phase motor run off the 3Q1 and 3K1 motor contactor and breaker. The motor breaker has some monitoring terminals which energize this pressure switch up the top, and so as long as that thermal breaker hasn't tripped, this just runs the whole time. When the pressure runs low, this switches the motor on, 3-phase motor starts until the switch goes off and up again. So it's a pretty simple system. The pump itself is very basic. Down in the bottom here, at the bottom of the motor, there's a bearing on an eccentric that orbits, and as it does so, it pushes on a piston and 2 little blocks down here that just pump up the pressure. So you can hear it make quite a noisy growl when it runs. Over here is the Willy Vogel automatic lubrication system. And here you can see a push button to run it manually, green light when it's running, and a red light when it's in error. Currently that has a remote timer that won't switch it on immediately, because sometimes I just want to do a commissioning run for a few minutes and turn it off, and it's not worth lubing. But as you can see inside here, there's a little controller that does some monitoring of some pressures, and it's set a time so it just lubricates every 60 minutes. I've taken one of the covers off here so you can see how the lubrication distribution system works. There are 35 of these little items are distributed around the various parts of the machine. They all feed up to, like this, to banjos on cross drillings which go to the slideway bearings on all the axes, including the rotary table. Inside each of these is a little system of metering pistons, some little differential pistons. So when the lubrication pump runs, a piston is shifted back here a certain amount against a spring until it hits the stop. And then when the pump turns off, the piston goes back and sends a metered dose to each of these lines. So you don't have to worry about the distribution of orifices and things like that. It's basically individual pump for all 35 of these, one for each. So what happens is the pump runs for a certain time, well, as long as it takes actually, for the pressure to come up. As these come up against their springs and hit the stop, of course the pressure is going to rise because it's a fixed displacement. When all 35 have hit their stops, suddenly the pressure on the pump rises, and when that happens, it starts dumping down its relief valve, and there's a pressure switch there that then runs the dosing pump for another 12 or 15 seconds just to be sure that it's got them all filled, and then it switches off. So that's how it cycles. If it doesn't get to see that pressure switch rise, it knows that it's got a broken line or something like that. So we'll keep going for a total of 1 minute and then decide there's something wrong, and it will stop and put up an alarm so you don't dump all the oil onto the floor. The lubrication system is a total loss system, so the machine tends to get fairly covered in oil, and there is some sort of capturing, so it captures the bulk of it, but it's not particularly well thought out, so you're constantly mopping oil off the floor around this machine.